I'm Henry, and I'm a certified veterinary technician at Pearl Animal Hospital. Today I want to talk to you guys about administering fluids to your pets at home. Now, when your veterinarian recommends that you administer fluids as therapy at home, it can seem like kind of a daunting task, and the procedure itself is pretty straightforward. Now, it is the same for cats and dogs. However, there are far few less reasons as to why you would be administering these fluids to dogs versus cats. The number one reason that we would prescribe subcutaneous fluid administration for home use is for cats that are in renal failure. And the reasoning behind that is we want to make sure we're keeping the patient in renal failure adequately hydrated, and that we're keeping those kidneys flushed and we're keeping them working appropriately. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and show you how to actually set up a bag of fluids for administration and show you how they would look when they come from your veterinarian. And then we'll go ahead and bring in a feline patient and we'll go ahead and actually administer some fluids. Now, the couple of things you're going to need. You're going to need a bag of the prescribed fluids that you will be administering, a fluid administration set, a 20 or 18 gauge needle, and a sharps container for when you guys are all done. Now, if you're doing this regularly and you are purchasing pieces of fluids from a pharmacy, this is what the fluids are going to come like. So we're going to go ahead and open up this bag, and we're going to go ahead and get our fluid line ready to go. So now, keep in mind, these fluids and the fluid administration set, this is all sterile. So we want to keep this as clean as possible. So any of the ports or any of the points that have caps on them, those are going to be considered sterile points. So you want to make sure that once you take the protective coverings off of them, that you're not touching them with your fingertips. I always recommend that owners wash their hands and make sure they have clean hands before starting this. And in most cases, you can do this as a single person procedure, but you might need an extra helper at home just to give you an extra hand. So we're going to take our fluids, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull off this stopper here. And again, this is the injection port, so we don't want to actually touch that area. There's a little clamp on your fluid administration set, and you're just going to slide that. And what that does is it pinches the tubing so that when you spike the bag, the fluids aren't going to run out and run all over the floor. You'll go ahead and you'll take the protective cap off of the fluid set, and you're going to go ahead and insert that right into the bottom of the bag. Now once you've got your bag spiked, you're just going to squeeze this chamber here. 2 squeezes is pretty much all it takes. And then we're going to go ahead and attach our needle. Now when attaching the needle, all you got to do is just pop it out of the paper. And again, taking care not to touch the hub of the needle. We're going to remove the cap off of the other end of the fluid line and go ahead and plug it in like so. There's also a little plastic adapter here that you can just twist on. It screws it, and that way it holds the needle onto your fluid set. You're going to then go ahead and hold your bag and take the cap off of your needle, and you're going to go ahead and unclamp your fluid set. And you'll see that the fluids start running through the line. And once they have gone all the way through the tubing, we'll go ahead and clamp it off again. This is called priming your fluid line. There is also a roller clamp here, so you can actually go ahead and when it's rolled all the way up, you can see that it actually moves. And when you roll it down, that also pinches up the line, so you kind of have a second backup. Now when you get your fluids from your veterinarian, they may already have spiked the bag for you. So in that case, everything will be coiled up around the bag, and the fluids are basically ready to go. All you need to do is take your pet and go ahead and uncoil the tubing, and go ahead and make sure that all but one of your clamps are open. So we can go ahead and open this one. And since I have this roller clamp closed, you can see that there's no fluids falling into my chamber. So I've got my fluid set all ready to go, so I'm going to go ahead and get our patient, and then we'll go ahead and administer some fluids. All right, so now that we have our patient, we'll go ahead and see how she tolerates us going ahead and administering some subcutaneous fluids. So this is Flomar, and she has been a very willing patient lately. However, since this is a procedure where we're actually going to insert a needle, you always want to be a little extra cautious. So now these fluids are going to be going in the subcutaneous space. And basically what that means is anywhere where you can grab some skin, this is all subcutaneous space underneath the skin. It's just going right below the skin. And this is kind of used as a step between, let's say she would normally drink water to stay hydrated, and then we have intravenous fluids, which would require hospitalization. Giving fluids subcutaneously, what we're doing is we're going to create a fluid pocket right under the skin. Typically, we would go in between the shoulder blades because that's the easiest and most comfortable for the patient. And then those fluids are going to be allowed to gradually absorb into her body over the next couple of hours. Now, it can look kind of funny, depending on the volume of fluids. Usually with cats, we would give about 100 cc's of fluids every couple of days. So I've got my fluid set here, and on the side of the line, or on the side of the bag, you've got these numbers here, and each of the large numbers is 100 milliliters of fluid. Now when you're holding your bag upright, the fluid line is right here. So once we get to the 1, we have administered 100 cc's of fluid. When we go from 1 to 2, we've administered another 100 cc's. So you always want to make sure that you're holding your bag and you're allowing it to hang to be able to measure how much fluids you've been given. So I've got my bag set up and all of my clamps are open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to face the patient away from me. And we're going to prepare her to go ahead and administer these fluids right between the shoulder blades. So I've got a new 18 gauge needle. And I'm going to gently grab the scruff of her neck. And I'm going to tent the skin in between the shoulder blades. Now I found that sometimes when you shake, you can get the needle in and they don't even really realize it. Now, initially, the needle poke is usually the worst part, but also when you first start your fluids, it can feel kind of funny to them. So I want to just caution you to start the fluids slowly when you first do it. And you do that by just gradually opening the fluid chamber, by just only rolling the wheel on the roller clamp partly up. So as you can see, my fluids are dripping, and Flomar seems to be pretty comfortable here. And since she's doing so well, we can go ahead and open our fluids all the way. And as you can see, the fluid is dripping into the chamber, going through the line and into the patient. Now, if we were to administer a full prescribed dose of fluids, we would go ahead and let this run all the way until that fluid level has reached the number 1. In some cases, you can speed this process up by just giving the bag a gentle squeeze. And that will speed up the fluid leaving the bag. Once we've administered the prescribed dose of fluids, we're going to go ahead and close our clamp by rolling the roller to the bottom. We'll set down our bag, and we're going to pinch the skin around the needle and remove the needle like so. Hey, sweetheart. Once our needle is been used, we're going to carefully cap the needle, and then we'll go ahead and remove the used needle by twisting. We'll place that into our sharps container and then go ahead and apply a new needle to your fluid set. Now, typically, like I was saying, in most feline patients, the prescribed dose of fluids is usually around 100 cc's. This will vary depending on your particular pet's needs and the veterinarian's orders. The fluid bags, as long as they're kept clean and sterile, you can use these every couple of days until the entire volume of fluids is gone. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to administer these fluids at home, and Flomar tolerated it really well. So if your veterinarian prescribes subcutaneous fluid administration for your pet at home, don't be intimidated. Meet with your veterinarian or your veterinary technician and have them walk you through it a couple of times until you're comfortable. I even recommend the first few times the owners are administering the fluids that they do it in the presence of their veterinarian until they're 100% confident and not fearful of doing this procedure at home. As always, if you have any questions on administering subcutaneous fluids at home to your pet or have any suggestions or recommendations for any videos that you would like to see us do, feel free to email us at ask_us@pearlanimalhospital.com. We'll see you guys soon.